Hey y'all, it's Tyler. Got some Polarises in here today. One of them is going to be a parts donor so the other one can live. It's going to be pretty fun. This white one here was resurrected from the dead not long ago. It had another donor. I know, seems wild, right? But it needed some love, needed some carburetor work, had some electrical issues and some suspension issues, and needed a belt, things like that. But we got it up and running. This is an 02 Trailblazer 250 two-stroke made by Polaris. So after we got this back to the customer, grandson was running it, got it off-road and stuff like that, and was loving it. So he had this one. Then he brought me this one. Said, Ty, he did great on the white one. Let's get this one going. Well, turns out this one's got some engine issues. And I made another video about my findings inside of that one. And essentially we've got the cylinders are washed down with all kinds of scoring and scratching. The air filter boot wasn't even on this one, so it's sucked in a lot of dirt, it looks like, in its time. And it has about maybe 80 to 90 pounds of compression soaking wet. It'll start okay if you choke it enough to get the cylinder wet to build compression, but once she's hot, she doesn't like to start. So that's kind of unfortunate, but that's where we are with that one. While this one was here and we found out all these problems, this one came back. He said, Ty, it just stopped starting. And we found out we've got no spark. So here's what we got to do. This one's going to cost too much to fix because the amount of parts required and everything to get this old thing going. He said he could probably find another used four-wheeler for the price of fixing this one, and I agree. Absolutely. It's going to be quite a bit to do a whole rebuild on an engine. So we're going to rob the parts from this one to fix this one and keep this one going. Well, with our no spark verified on this guy, we're going to get into these components here, and we're going to talk about what we've got to do, the troubleshooting that Polaris recommends, and then we'll talk about the other components we got to do on here too. So this is Troubleshooting 101, how you diagnose failed components. And it's kind of cool to have two units here together, because you know you've got one that does start and run okay and one that doesn't. So you can compare components back and forth, knowing from a well-known good part to one that's failed, just for you to test things yourself, which is kind of nice. Diagrams, troubleshooting tree, hang in there, we'll get through this. We know this one starts and runs, but this one won't start. So I had a suspicion. I wanted to check first the stator here. I disconnected anything that was going to be the safety kill on this feller here. So when you've got your ignition box here, your CDI here, usually you're going to have a kill wire that comes out of here, which is the single wire right here. If you disconnect this single black wire, that should disable all of your different safety kill circuits. I mean, even if you got this thing to run, you go to turn the key off, it wouldn't die because this wire is not going to ground it out. Same with the handlebar switch. Either way, I've done that. I've disconnected this switch, still had no spark. With that being disconnected and I'm getting no spark, it leaves three things really. It could be the CDI box or the actual coil pack in here. And for the sake of argument, the coil pack, the spark plug wire, and the spark plug boot are all part of the coil assembly. They're all one. So it could be a bad wire, a bad boot, connector. I'm still calling it the coil pack. Or it could be the stator, which is going to be underneath the magneto down there. Good thing about being Polaris, we've got good documentation here. We can look at what the specs are going to be for the stator and the coil, and we can check these. So I just wanted to check real quick the stator itself, because I'm thinking that water got in and shorted the stator out down there or something. So, but there's an easy way to check. Polaris has pretty good troubleshooting guides. This is the electrical system. You can go down here, no spark or intermittent spark. Disconnect the black wire from the CDI module to isolate ignition system from kill system. Does it have spark? Yes or no? No. Okay, we go down here. Disconnect the exciter coil and pulse coil connections from the CDI module. Measure resistance of the exciter coil and pulse coil where applicable. Refer to charts on pages 10.3 or the wiring schematic to meter connections and specifications. Compare results to the specifications on the chart. Are all within spec. So this is where the test is. They want you to check from the stator, from the black red wire to the brown, should read 120 ohms, and then the other yellows on there are going to be the generator wires that do the charging system. So we're looking down to the three wires that come out of the stator that are in charge of ignition, which is a black with a red tracer, a brown and white, and a solid white. So it's going to be this top line we're testing here, the third line, black red to ground, that should read no connection, and then white to ground should be 0 ohms, so it should tone out. So when you're talking about what these are, this is what's going to be coming from your stator. this 3-pig here, and it should be this guy. Yeah, the yellow, red, and the brown here. So one goes to the grounding on the coil. Here's your 2 exciter leads that come from the stator itself that go into your rectifier along the way here. I know I keep throwing the term stator, 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 but I want you to know that there's actually 2 different components down there under that magneto. You actually do have your general stator, which is going to produce your voltage for your charging system, which was with that yellow with red tracer and yellow wire, and I think there was another ground that came from there for your charging system. But there's also your magnetic coil pickup down there, which just looks like a little half moon, 2-bolt, some windings for your trigger pickup. So technically that little 3-wire pigtail I'm showing you is actually going back to our coil pickup, which is mounted in the same orientation as the stator is, beneath the flywheel. So I just wanted to specify that there is 2 different things down there, but they're made together where the stator and the magnetic pickup are 2 separate pieces, but when their wires come out, they go together in a wiring harness and come up through the chassis up to the front under the front cover here. So I just wanted to clarify here. I keep saying stator, 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 but we're actually checking that magnetic pickup, which if you follow the wiring diagrams, you would know what I'm talking about anyway. So I don't want to lose you or confuse you, but that's what we're checking here right now. But this is the guy that goes to this connector, which then in turn goes to your CDI box. Then your CDI box has its output wires that go to your coil and then your kill circuit here. So what we can do is we're going to check this right here on the meter. Already got a little cheat sheet right here that I've made up. Just ignore my scribblings. So I've got the blue 4-wheeler, which is the one back there in the white. I know the blue one runs. I've got my meter set to ohms. I can see my reflection. Touching, we got contact 0 ohm. All right, we've got from the black with red tracer to the brown and white. We're supposed to read 120 ohm as a spec, plus or minus a percentage, which is on the diagram. So if we go the black and red to the brown and white, black and red is this bottom female connector, and then our top left one here, which is the brown and white. If you see, we've got about 113, 114 ohm, and our spec is 120, so we got about 113. That's within spec there to pass. That's good. So now we're going to switch it over from the black red, so we're going to leave that down here, to a ground. So we're going to find a good frame ground. I'm going to pick these bolts up here. We should have no connection. I'll pick another bolt, no connection. So we're going to take this out of the red. We're going to go into the solid white, which is right here, to ground. This should tone out to ground. So I've got it held here. Goodness sakes. Got it held in here at the white. Go to ground. We tone out. That means that down there, as far as the pulse signals and everything going, the pickups coming from the stator that are in charge of spark are okay. They're within spec. Now let's move on to this white one and show you what it's reading. I know it's my results are already on my page here, but let's walk with me here. Same deal. We're going to go from the black and red to the brown and white. Watch this meter. She starts building resistance. It's pretty wild, isn't it? Maybe just kind of give her a couple little taps here. Kind of break it and bring it back. You know, so we got 1.3 mega ohm. That's way outside what it's supposed to be 120 ohm, and we're in a whole different range above, so that portion is bad. We got 1.2 mega ohm up here. So now we're going to go black red to ground. We're on black red. Now we're going to go to ground. Let's see what we got. Look, we got a reading when we shouldn't have. 160,000 ohm. That's insane. So there's supposed to be no connection there, but clearly we've got a connection. So that's not good. That fails inside of the range. And we're going to go from white to ground. I'm going to move this up from white and then to ground. So at least we know our ground wire is about the only good thing, because that white should go to the stator plate down there for ground. So that one is the only one we got that's good. So this is what's in charge of exciting the CDI module to send the spark through to the coil pack, to the spark plug boot, to the spark plug to ignite the fuel in the motor, and we ain't getting that. I've already identified that the hardest work has to be done, which is to change the stator on this unit here. And what sucks is we're not going to be able to pull it out of the box and bolt a new one on there. We're going to be using the donor stator from this blue one. So it's going to need to be pulled and put onto this one to get this one fixed. So it is what it is. Going to have to be some extra work done down here to make sure this is nice and watertight down here, because I'm assuming that's probably what's got down in there and did some of the damage. Then we'll also going to check our coil pack too, and just make sure that it's within spec. Following our Polaris troubleshooting, after we check all of our modules here, we get the stator replaced down there, moving on. Okay, now we have stuff within spec. Cool. I want you to check the coil ground connection between the engine and the coil mount using an ohm meter. The coil mount should have good continuity to ground on the engine. So basically they're just making sure that the body of your coil pack is mounted well to where it's grounding through itself. That's why they want you to clean coil mounting area, repair ground wire connections if you're not getting a good connection. So they want you to disconnect and check the secondary coil resistance value should be the primary side, which is the wire tab, that little guy down here where the wire comes out of your ignition module. From that to ground should be 0.3 to 0.5 ohms. And then the secondary side, which is the high tension wire to engine ground cap. So they're basically what they're calling the high side is inside of your spark plug boot. That's why they're saying the cap installed. So if your boot was on your wire, that should be your reading between here and engine ground. If you have that cap removed, you're just checking through the wire, it should be this reading, because there is in that spark plug boot a built-in resistor. And if you could measure what the resistance is here between 6,300 ohm and 11,300 ohm, if I was quick math on that one, it's 5,000. So that spark plug boot adds 5,000 ohm of resistance, so that's why it drops down. And if you don't have this reading, they want you to replace the ignition coil. So we're not there yet, but that's what you're gonna have to do if you want to check that. That's all I got, guys. God bless.